slight delay. We were having a few technical problems with the broadcasting of this, so I apologise for that, and hope that you're still there and waiting to get started. So my name's Berni Wall, and I'm an IELTS trainer, and in the next 20 minutes I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the last few weeks before your exam. So you're probably here because your exam is coming up very soon, maybe in the next 2-3 weeks, in the next month. And you're probably feeling a little bit anxious, which is quite natural. And you may be feeling a little bit panicked, perhaps because you're not sure if you're really ready, or perhaps you're not sure if you've done enough work, or whether you're going to get your score. So there could be many reasons. So what I want to do is to give you a few tips in the next 20 minutes to help you use those last few weeks to prepare well and get more confidence for the day that you take your exam. So some of you here probably know me. If you don't, I'd just like to say just a few short words about myself and my relationship to IELTS. I am an IELTS trainer, and I've been training people for IELTS for 20 years. Most of those people need Band 7 and Band 8, and many of them Band 7 in everything, and increasingly Band 8 in everything, which is a very tough thing to try and do. I was for 4 years or so an IELTS examiner, so I know what the examiners are looking for, particularly in the speaking and in the writing. And over the 20 years that I've been working with Band 7 and 8 students, I've had a lot of success in getting them through the exam with the scores that they want. Some people can do it very quickly, other people take longer, and you need to be aware of that, that if you don't get it the first time, then it just means you need more steps. There are more steps that you need to take. So I want to get started now on the material that I've got for you today, and there's quite a lot there, so bear with me and we'll get started. So this is the first time I've done a Hangout, so bear with me and we'll get going. Right, so I hope you can see the first slide there. So how best to study in the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks it could be, and indeed maybe the last month before your exam. I'm assuming, I hope, that most of the work will be done. Most of the English language preparation, the vocabulary learning, the grammar, etc. will be done. And you're now just close to the exam, and you need to perfect your exam technique for IELTS and make sure of your score. So it's just that last bit where you want to be absolutely certain of where you are and what you're going to get. And just tidy up 1 or 2 things that maybe you're still struggling with a little. The exam should not really be your training ground. The exam should come at the end of your study and your training. And so if that is the case, you're probably feeling reasonably confident. If you're using the exam as a training ground, then I just need to warn you that this is a very long and slow process. And if you want to get a good score at IELTS, you really need to move away from that strategy, and you need to start studying English, making sure your language skills are good enough, and then using the exam as the end of your study and not as a method of study. So you have 2-3 weeks left, maybe a month. So what can you do to make sure that you're on track? So the first thing I think is to be organized. Don't waste time. Be as productive as you can be in these next few weeks. This will help you not only prepare better for each part of the test, but also help to build your confidence so that on the day of your test, you're going to feel more ready and more confident about how the result will go. So, the first thing you need to do is to get focused. This is a good picture. Make sure you have a notebook and pen. Make sure you have some kind of plan or strategy to take you through these next few weeks. So the first thing that you should probably do is to do an assessment. Now, in this, you should go through a reading test in the time, which is an hour, go through a listening test, try and do a writing in the time. It's quite hard to self-assess writing, but at least you'd get a feel for how you can manage the time with your writing, including the planning and the checking time. And one word of warning, please, please, please stick to the word limit. The more you write, the more you'll make mistakes. And you want to limit the number of mistakes that you make in writing. So stick to the word limit. Don't go over 180 for task 1 and 280 for task 2, because that's just a dangerous thing to do. And you'll end up with more mistakes, which will pull your score down even further. So try and do that. The speaking is a little bit difficult to do by yourself. If you can get hold of some speech-to-text software, then you could try, especially for part 2 and also for some of the question types, do this through a speech to text. And in the speech to text, what you'll find is that it will write what you're saying, and that should show you how accurate you are. Okay, when you've done the assessment, set yourself a timetable. So decide how much time you've got each day. Don't overdo it, but set yourself a time when you can be quiet and study well every day. And decide in that time what you're going to cover. The assessment will show you where you need to focus the most. Okay, make sure you cover everything. Don't leave any part out. Don't get to the exam not having done any writing or not having done any listening because last time you got a good score. Things can go up and down. If you focus on one area, it will improve. But if you neglect another area, it will decrease, even slightly. So try and cover everything in the exam. And record and evaluate everything you've done. So write down the scores you get and put it in your timetable. So today maybe you get 27 in listening. Tomorrow maybe you get 28 in listening. Maybe on day 3 it drops to 20. You need to understand why that's happening. And if you don't record and evaluate everything, then you're not going to have anything to compare. And it helps if you can compare not only when your scores go up and down, but where you've made the mistakes. And that will help us that you need to practice more. Okay. So make sure you do something every day. It's okay to give yourself one day off a week and have a rest. That's quite healthy. But try to be consistent. But don't overdo it. Don't do 10, 11 hours, even 6, 7 hours. It's too much. And you'll just crowd your brain. And language is something that takes time to assimilate. So if you don't know the language by now, probably if your exam is in 2 or 3 weeks, it's too late to do much about your language skills. Something about is your technique, and try and stop losing marks. But to try and learn more vocabulary, improve your grammar at this stage is going to be quite difficult. So don't try to do too much. It will not work out in the end. So use the time to consolidate what you know. 30 minutes a day is better than doing a 3-hour block. So be, a little bit every day and be consistent. Try to cover a little bit of everything each day. Don't do a whole test. Just do one reading or one section of listening or just a plan for your task 1 and a part 2 speaking. So don't do everything every day. It's not useful. Just look at the areas you need to concentrate on. Be critical. Don't say, oh, it's a difficult test, so I didn't get a high score. All the tests are roughly, there are some differences occasionally, but roughly the same. So if there's something going wrong, 99.9% of the time it's probably something you're doing or you're not doing. It's not the test. Don't blame the test. Look at your scores and be critical. Say, okay, I missed that question. Why did I miss the question? Go over it and see. Make sure you can find the answer. Be honest. If you're not honest, you can't move forward. Don't blame the examiner. Don't blame the test. Don't blame the book. It's something that you're doing or not doing. So be honest about that, accept it, and then move on and try and find out why you're making a mistake there. Okay. Right, the second tip is to be analytical. So we've got our program, we know what we're doing when, we're going through the steps, doing a little bit every day, making sure we're looking at what's going wrong, and this is where you have to analyze what's going wrong. So you need to think about why you made the mistakes. Look back in your evaluation. Did you make the same mistakes yesterday? Did you make the same mistakes last week? If you can identify that, then you know that this is a problem area for you. And then you need to have a look and see why you're making those mistakes, what the problem is, what are you missing. The difficulty with this analysis comes in the writing. It's very difficult to analyze your own writing. But perhaps you could get somebody to look at it. Ideally would be an IELTS teacher, because they could tell you very quickly what's going wrong and how to change. But if you don't have access to an IELTS teacher, and there are lots of online who can do this for you, or you may be able to post your writing somewhere and get some feedback. Or if you know a native speaker, they may not be able to advise you how to change, but they can certainly tell you where it's wrong. And then finally, if you can't find any of those sources, then find a friend whose English is better than yours, preferably, and just ask them to have a look and see if they can see anything wrong. If there's absolutely no one or any way you can get this feedback, then one piece of advice is always read your writing out loud, because that will show you where there are mistakes. You will stumble where there is a mistake. Okay, so what are we going to analyze? We need to check the scores in detail. So we need to look at these mistakes and find out where they are, and make a note of them, or making them over and over again. Are there any particular patterns? So, but what I mean by that is, are they in one particular passage? So it might be most of your mistakes come in listening part 4, or they may come in passage 3 in the reading, or you may find you make more mistakes in listening part 1, which is often the case, or perhaps in the middle reading. So try and identify if there is a pattern and if they're in one particular part. If it's the writing, perhaps your writing 1, task 1, is not as good as your task 2. And you'll know this when you're writing. You'll know whether it's more of a struggle for task 1 or task 2. And the same with the speaking. Do you find part 3 more challenging than the rest of it? Or do you struggle a little bit with part 2? So see if this is a repetitive thing, and then that is where you need to focus your practice. Is it one type of question? A lot of people find difficulty with yes, no, not given, for example. Or they may find the headings harder than other questions. Sometimes in the listening, people find the maps and diagrams. Are those the areas that you find you make? If so, then focus on those types of question. Or is it something else that's causing the problem? This could be something like spelling in part 1 listening. A lot of people make a lot of spelling errors and that loses marks. Then think about your spelling. Is that a problem for you? If it is, then just try and do some spelling practice. Or could be grammar, especially in short answers, 3-word short answers in both listening and reading, especially to part 4 of the listening and in passage 3 of the reading. Quite often you have to make your answer grammatical. It's also the case in the summaries, where you have to write the summary. You may find that if you don't make the grammar right, you'll lose a mark. So you might have heard the right word, you might have found the right word in the reading, but you're not recording it correctly. If that's a problem, you have to be aware of it. I find quite often students will automatically think it's 3 words. Sometimes it's only 1 word, sometimes it's 2 words. Make sure you check the information really carefully so that you know exactly how many words. That would be a really silly mistake to make, that you lost 4 or 5 marks because you only were asked for 1 word and you put 3. So these are sometimes the errors that people make. Okay. So, where you lose those marks, you have to practice more. Where you focus, you will improve. This is a truth. It happens. If you just keep going through the test, then you're not going to focus on the areas that you need to improve. When you focus on the areas you need to improve, your score goes up. That is true. So, if you just keep going through the test, it won't happen. Sometimes in a test you might get band 6, sometimes band 6.5, sometimes band 7. The reason it differs is because sometimes you might get 4 true, false, not given, or you might get 2 lots of headings, or you might get 3 lots of multiple choice. And if those questions are the questions that you are weak in, then you're going to lose more marks. So it's really important that you focus on the weak areas so that you can keep improving your score. And going through tests over and over does not help you to do that. Also, the tests should be used at the end of your preparation. At this time, 2-3 weeks before your exam is when you should be doing the tests. And I know a lot of people use tests to practice and to study. And the difficulty there is that when you come to the test, then you've already used up those you've already used up the test practice you've got, and you have nothing to prepare with. You haven't got these tests to help you in the last 2-3 weeks. So the tests should not be your training material. They should be your test material prior to the exam. Okay, I said focus on the weak areas. So go back to your books, find the true, false, not given, find the yes, no, not given, find the headings, practice those areas, and then come back and do the test ones again. Set yourself a target. Now this will depend on the score that you're looking for. So if you're looking for band 7, you know that you're going to need 30 out of 40 this is in academic, for example. You know that's the score you need. So set yourself a target of 33. That will give you a cushion, a comfort cushion, and then gradually move up to that level of 33. So if you're getting 28, decide tomorrow I'm going to get 29. And if you focus on the areas where you are weak, you will get an extra point. And then the next day, try and get 30. And then again, focus on another weak area, get yourself another point, and you'll get your 30. And what you will find is that when you've focused on those areas and improved your score, then you will be getting 30 every time. Okay, now and again it might drop a little, but more or less you should be getting 30. Then go to 31, and then to 32, etc. Do this with the reading and do this with the listening, and soon you'll see your score improving, and you'll have fewer problems with the weaker questions that you had before. Think about keywords. This is particularly important in the listening. You must underline those keywords to anticipate the answer, but only 1 or 2 maximum in each question. In the reading, you're probably going to need 3 words, 3 keywords in each question, maybe 4. But in the listening, too many keywords will just confuse you. Okay. And in the writing, think about your planning and your checking. Don't write an essay every day. If nobody's going to look at it, there's no point, because it's not going to help you. And it could be dangerous, because if you've got mistakes that you can't identify, those mistakes will become more ingrained in your writing. So it's better to look at topics and say, if I've got this topic, what points would I use? How would I make my plan? How would I organise my essay? What kinds of phrases would I put in there? What kinds of vocabulary would I use? So sometimes just do that. Don't just keep writing essays that nobody's going to look at. Okay, now you've done your organisation, you've done your analysis, you know what to focus on, you're focusing on that, your scores are starting to improve. So now just keep trying again and again. So try and go through a test, but don't do one every day. I would say perhaps do one every third day, maybe, do a whole test. Not a whole test, but a whole listening, perhaps. On the other days, just do one part. If part 3 is your worst part, then do part 3. If passage 3 is your worst reading, then do some passage 3s. But keep trying again so that you can improve your score. And this will make a difference to your performance. Okay, I think you've probably been told there is no magic formula. This is a test of English language, and it's a test of your application of English language. So if your English language skills are good, then the only thing you need to do is to make sure that you've got good exam technique so that you can maximize the application of your language in the exam. And that's your job, that's what you need to do. Improving your skills takes practice. It's not going to make a huge difference to your language skills 3 weeks before the exam. You should have done that before. So if your language skills are still weak, then the best thing you can do is just try not to make too many mistakes and try and pick up a few more points. But all of the language improvement must be done before you get to this point. People develop skills at different rates. So just because you're a month, if you're the same level as theirs, and this could do with the fact that you haven't studied as long, you don't get exposed to English as much. Some people are naturally better at languages than others. There are many reasons why this will happen. But don't worry. You maybe will take just a little bit longer, but you can still get there. Everybody can get there in the end. The techniques that you will practice in the last 2 to 3 weeks help you to apply your English better to the tasks. They'll not really improve your skills. Your skills must be improved by attention to your general reading, your general listening, your acquisition of vocabulary, and also your grammar for writing and how to organize. But the techniques like how to find the answers quickly, how to use the keywords, how to plan your writing, how to brainstorm the topic and how to check, those things are very valuable in these last 3 weeks, and they will help you to improve. Okay, so all of this can help you, but there are still some questions. How can you be absolutely certain? It's quite easy to discover this with reading and listening, but if you're not consistent, you need to know how to get yourself consistent so that you're always getting 32 or 33. How can you make sure that you're doing the right things to get more marks? Because that's key. You want to, if you're on 28 and you want band 7, you really need to get another 2 or 3 points, and in these last 2 or 3 weeks. How do you know that you're writing well? This is very, very difficult to assess by yourself. Almost impossible to assess by yourself. And how do you know that you're speaking well? Again, this you can assess with other people, but you certainly won't know how to do it by yourself. So you need a way of making sure that all of these are going to happen and you're going to be aware of them happening. So imagine this. How would it feel to have daily feedback from somebody that is an expert in the exam? And to get your work corrected so that you can be crystal clear on your mistakes and how to avoid them. And you need to know where they are. You may not be able to discover them all by yourself, but not only that, you need to know how to correct them and also how to avoid them. And how far could your writing particularly move if you had somebody telling you this and helping you with this? And what difference would it make if you could ask people every day, any question that pops into your head, if you had somebody that you could ask that question to, because you know your exam's coming and you need the answer. If you could do that every day, how would that make your preparation better? And finally, grow your confidence. If you had somebody supporting you and helping you every day before your exam, it would certainly and surely be the best way to spend those 2-3 weeks before you get to your exam date. And there would be certainly a great boost to your confidence level. And at the end of the day, when you sit down in that exam room, the key thing there, if you've done all the work, is your level of confidence in your ability. So, yes, it's obvious. And it's true. You can't really improve language by yourself. Language is communication, and you need somebody to communicate with. Now, a trained IELTS teacher is obviously the very, very best person to do this for you. But there are other options, especially with the online space. You can find other people. But getting support and getting somebody to sound off is really, really vital. But obviously, if you can get professional help, it's going to help you to improve more quickly and more securely. And it's also going to make a huge difference to your confidence. So, again, I think these are obvious, but a teacher will help you tasks that will help you. Not just everybody, but just you and your areas of weakness and your areas where you're not quite sure. They'll give you feedback, your own personal feedback on your mistakes. And not everybody makes the same mistakes. I have students who are really good in reading and they get 7.58 every time. But in their writing, they may be only getting 6.5. I have other students who can get 7 in writing easily, but they don't get high scores in reading. So everybody's different, and it's important that you get the feedback that's going to help you. Somebody to support you, monitor your progress day by day, and then tell you how you can improve. So they can say, word, how could you miss that keyword? That's a keyword that you must be aware of in every reading question. And then you know that next time you get that keyword, and it might be just a small word like much or many, but these keywords are more important sometimes than the nouns that give you the information. But a teacher will be able to pinpoint that and say, why did you ignore that? Or why did you look here when it's clear from your keywords that they are not all in that place? So this kind of advice can help you much, much faster than doing it by yourself. And they can build your confidence. They can build your confidence in a massive way that you could not do by yourself. And finally, you get support. A teacher or somebody who is better than you in IELTS can help and support you. So a teacher, to my mind, is the most ideal way to spend these last 3 weeks. But if you haven't got access to a teacher, then find yourself a buddy who is going through the same thing, but who is maybe better in some of the areas that you are weak in. Okay. So, I want to offer you something special around an expert teacher. But I can only offer this to 10 people. And so for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, I'm prepared to make this offer of getting expert teacher support right up to your exam to just 10 people. It will be 3 weeks of intensive teacher-led study. So all the things I mentioned before about the teacher supporting will be involved in this exam support. It will be a teacher who is looking privately at your work and personally at your work. That means that it's a one-to-one. So you will get one-to-one help from this teacher. It will not be a class where the teacher's dealing with everybody's areas at once. You'll get daily feedback, you will be given tasks every day. So it is really a very intensive pre-exam revision, which is teacher-led, and you will be fully supported by that teacher. And in order to make sure that it's the right thing for you, then I am going to have a personal conversation with everybody who is interested in getting this support. And I want to make sure that it's absolutely right for you. And if it isn't, then I will tell you. So if you have a lot of time, then it may not be the best thing. If you are a long way from your desired band score, then it may not be the best thing. But whatever the reason, if it isn't the best thing, I will tell you and we'll discuss it. And if it is the best thing, then we can talk about how it will work for you and how it will help you to improve your score and make sure that you go in on that day saying to the examiner, here I am, I'm going to show you that I can get band 7, that I can perform at band 7 or band 8 level, or whatever band level you need. So, let's just recap the steps first. This is what you must do. You must get organised and make a plan. Analyse all your results. Don't just go through test papers. Go through the weaker areas, go through the parts of the exam where you make the most mistakes, and evaluate and assess and compare. Find the areas where you're weak and focus. Remember, the areas you focus on will improve. That is a universal truth. Where your focus goes, things improve. Test yourself again on those parts. Can you get 2 or 3 more points? If you can, then do it again and get another 2 or 3 points. Build your score point by point. And if you have an organised plan and you've got 3 weeks to do this, then you'll see your score improving. You know, you will see this happen. Try and get help and support. This is really valuable. Whether it's a teacher, whether you come and talk to me, or whether you find a group of friends with whom you can share the practice. That will also work not to the same extent and the same speed, but it will make an improvement. And if you know exactly what you're doing, on the day, you'll go in there with less fear and more confidence. So finally, if you're interested at all in getting support, even if you're not sure whether it's the right thing for you, come and talk to me. I'm making space in my diary for the next 2 weeks for conversations with students so that we can go through what's on offer and see if it's going to be the right fit for you and help you in the last vital 2-3 weeks before your exam. I really want to help all of you, or as many as I can, to get the score that you really want and help you move on with your dreams. But I only have space, myself and my team only have space for 10 people in the next month. So, to be ready or able to take up one of those places, you'll need to speak to me very soon. And even if you're not sure, as I said before, it's good to speak about it and find out if it's going to help you. So it's quite easy to do this. All you need to do is to follow that link, IELTSlearningtips.com. So http://IELTSlearningtips.com/IELTS exam booster. And that will take you to a page where you can get access to my timetable. And on the timetable, I have put all different times, some mornings, some afternoons, some evenings, so that I can cover wherever you are geographically. And then you can make an appointment, give me your Skype name, and then at the time of your appointment, you must be there on Skype so that we can have a conversation and discuss the suitability of this, this training for your final exam revision before your test. But remember, I can only take 10 people. So if you want a chance to be one of those 10, then you need to make an appointment very soon and get into my schedule in the next week or two. And I have, if your exam is coming up in just 2 weeks, I have set aside 3 appointments this afternoon. So if you're quick, you could speak to me as early as half an hour, an hour's time. Okay, so thank you very much for being at this event. I'm just trying to get back on the Hangout. I hope that you found that useful. And remember, it's about focus, it's about evaluation, and it's about increasing your score step by step. So thank you for coming. Don't forget to follow the link and make an appointment. And I really look forward to speaking to many of you on Skype over the next few days. Thank you, and good luck with your exam whenever that will be.